All right, let's talk about one of the biggest questions in the startup world. What's the real difference between just getting bigger and actually building a company that's built to last? You know, it turns out that growth by itself can be a pretty dangerous illusion. So today, we're going to dive into some key insights from the book, Scaling Your Startup, to figure out how winning companies build that foundation for real enduring success. Okay, so here's the game plan for today. First, we'll tackle the whole growth versus scaling debate. Then we'll get into what a truly scalable business model actually looks like. After that, we'll see how culture is the secret sauce that fuels it all. We'll also look at some strategic pivots, the good and the bad. And finally, we'll wrap up with the kind of marathon mindset you need to win in the long run. So let's jump right in. We're going to start by challenging one of the biggest, and I mean biggest, sacred cows in business. This idea that growth at any cost is always the goal. So let me ask you a question. You see a startup with $1 billion valuation. Its revenue has gone up like triple digits in a year. That's got to be a home run, right? Well, maybe not. It's actually not that simple. In fact, sometimes those incredible headline-grabbing numbers are just a smokescreen, hiding a business that's, well, basically on the verge of falling apart. Let's take a look at a real-world example, Snowflake. I mean, on the surface, the hype was off the charts. Its valuation soared from $1.5 billion to $3.5 billion in just 10 months. Revenue quadrupled, customer base tripled. Sounds amazing. But what was really going on under the hood? The reality was a company that was consistently losing money. They were just burning through cash. For every single dollar they brought in, they were spending even more, mostly by hiring this huge, expensive sales team. This is the perfect example of growth, but not scaling. Okay, so if that's the problem, then what's the answer? Well, it all comes down to building the right foundation from day one, and that foundation is a scalable business model. So what exactly is a scalable business model? What does that even mean? Well, a truly scalable model has these two almost magical qualities. First, as you grow and get more customers, your cost to serve each one actually goes down. You just get more efficient. And second, at the same time, the value you're giving to your customers actually goes up. It creates this incredible, powerful cycle of profitable growth that just feeds on itself. Now let's put this idea to the test. Let's compare a company called JFrog to what we saw with Snowflake. And wow, the difference is just night and day. JFrog hit $100 million in revenue with this super efficient model. They had an inbound sales funnel, which basically means customers came looking for them, and they had exactly 0 field salespeople. And the result? They've been cash flow positive since 2014. That is a scalable engine. It's the polar opposite of that cash-burning, sales-heavy model we were just talking about. Okay, check this out. Here's another key ingredient for a scalable model, this time from the cybersecurity company CrowdStrike, 130%. So what is that? That's their upsell rate. Just think about that for a second. It means for every dollar they sell to a customer in 1 year, they get an extra 30 cents from that same customer the next year, just from them buying more.
All right, let's look at this in another comparison. So on one side, you've got CrowdStrike with its built-in upsell model that drives profitable growth. On the other side, let's talk about Snap. See, because they relied on other companies for their computing power, every time they added a cool new feature, like those filters we all used, their own costs actually went up. So their growth was literally costing them more and more money. And to make things worse, their best features were super easy for competitors like Instagram to copy. So you see, one model gets stronger as it grows, the other gets weaker.
But here's the thing. You can have the best business model in the world on a spreadsheet, but that's not enough. You need the right people in the right environment to actually bring it to life. And that's where culture comes in. It's literally the fuel for the engine we've been talking about. Disorganization abounds, a frenzied approach, lots of motion but little tangible success. Burnout has set in. The journey to scaling is never a straight line, right? It's more like a winding road with a bunch of forks, some dead ends, and these massive critical decisions that can change absolutely everything. So let's dive into how great leaders navigate these strategic pivots, and we'll look at both the wins and the failures. The story of Actifio is such a great cautionary tale. I mean, these guys were on a total rocket ship, growing 500% year over year, heading straight for an IPO. But then, in 2013, they decided to pivot and chase the small and medium business market. And it was a disaster.
Why? Because their entire company's DNA, how they sold, what their product did, their whole culture, it was all built for huge enterprise companies. Chasing a market that didn't fit who they were nearly wrecked the company. They had to scrap the whole thing, lay people off, and do a complete, painful reset just to survive.
Now, let's contrast that with Looker. They absolutely mastered the art of the strategic pivot. Instead of making one massive, risky bet like Actifio, they just kept shifting their focus as different markets started to mature. They'd start with investment banks, then pivot to Facebook users, then Fortune 200 firms, then Europe. It was this brilliant, continuous evolution. It was like they were surfing. By the time one wave was about to break, they were already paddling out to catch the next one. It's how they made sure their growth never ever stalled.
Look at how they scaled their massive cloud business, AWS. It basically comes down to 3 steps. 1, they hire builders, people who think like a CEO, and put them in charge of each service. 2, they give those people real ownership, like go build your business ownership. And 3, they hold them accountable with really tough weekly metric reviews. If you miss your goal, you better have a plan to get back on track. It's this perfect mix of empowerment and discipline.
So when you really put it all together, you've got the scalable business model, you've got the culture that fuels it, you've got the wisdom to know when and how to pivot, and you've got that leadership mindset that just never gets comfortable. That's when you find the real recipe for winning. It is the fundamental difference between a startup that's a flash in the pan and a company that's truly built to last. Which leaves us with one final question to think about. Does your company have what it takes to run the marathon?